Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. If you have a mom, you'll love our podcasts. Here are your hosts, former Fox News political correspondent Joel Waldman and his mom, Carmela, a licensed marriage therapist and Holocaust survivor.
And we're back for
look like a wounded.
Close to episode 40. For once, I have to say, we record out of order. And after the interview we just had, I can't even begin to have light banter.
I tell you what.
Well, keep in mind, the audience has not heard the interview yet.
Oh.
Let me just tell you guys, it's episode 40. We've made it to 40, give or take 3 to 7 episodes.
That's how many years the Israelites had to be in the desert. Do you know why?
Why?
So that they would get rid of their old slave ways and the new generation would come into the country as free men, country being Israel.
Well, it's obvious you ain't forgiven the Nazis in 40 years. It's going to take a hell of a lot longer than that. So coming up next...
Because people live too long today.
This is a doozy. This is probably this is definitely a doozy. We're coming up next. We are interviewing...
Joel is in a shock.
We're interviewing Derek Niemann and Noemie Lopian. She is the daughter of Holocaust survivors, as I am the son of a Holocaust survivor. And Derek Niemann is the grandson of a Nazi, and Carmela had a lot to say, as you'll hear coming up next on the main schmooze.
Do you want to help my son? His company, Content Partners Media, specializes in brand video and content creation for innovative companies and others. Please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com and hire him. I repeat, please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com.
Welcome back to Surviving the Survivor. It's time now for the main schmooze.
And back for the main schmooze. And this week, we can't say that it is not interesting. We've got the grandson of a former Nazi, Carmela, people you know all too well. And we've got the daughter of Holocaust survivors, and they've been touring around speaking about their experiences together. Now, when I booked this for the show, you called me and you said, Joel, did you ever wonder how I felt about this? To which I responded, no, I never did. How do you feel about this, Mom?
It's very interesting because he booked it first. He did it with a few different people that afterwards I dealt with it. He booked it without checking with me, which is, if he would have any other partner.
I am the producer.
He's the producer and I am the diva, he says. So how do I feel about this?
Yes, how do you feel about it?
You say I met a lot of Nazis?
I said that's you have that experience in your background. I never said you met any.
I haven't met any.
Well, you're about to meet the grandson of one. We are saying hello to Noemie Lopian and Derek. Is it Niemann or Niemann?
It's Niemann, Joel.
Derek Niemann. How are you?
We're good. I think our weather is not as good as yours, though.
Yeah, that's definitely not. Noemie, how are you doing?
We're great. Thank you very much, Joel. Thanks for having us both on your show.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So let me tell the audience a little bit about you guys. So Noemie Lopian is a Holocaust educator. She grew up in Munich and Manchester. I was in Munich for work about right before the pandemic. It's a very, very beautiful place. Like me, she rarely spoke about the Holocaust, even though both of her parents were in it. Fortunately, I only had one who survived the Holocaust, not both. The other was, he survived, but he survived in the Bronx. Her French mother, Renee, was questioned at gunpoint by the Gestapo at the age of 10, ultimately saved by the town's Lord Mayor. Noemie's Polish father, Dr. Ernst Israel Bornstein, a pretty Jewish name.
I like it. I know a Bornstein.
Anytime your name is Israel Bornstein, you can pretty much assume that person is Jewish. He was arrested at 18 and moved between seven concentration camps. Karm, you can't compete with that. He was liberated near Munich by American soldiers on April 30th, 45. A few years ago, Noemie Lopian teamed up with an unlikely speaking partner, Derek Niemann, who joins us today, the grandson of a Nazi war criminal. We're going to hear this story. The thesis that the two kind of bring together when they are touring is that the Nazis tried to kill kindness. Am I right about that, guys? Noemie?
Yes, you are.
May I say something?
Go right in.
I think this is the most ridiculous statement I heard in a long time. And I tell you why.
Go ahead.
When I read it,
Karm coming out of the gates, very
it is a most ridiculous statement. The Nazis did not try to kill kindness.
What?
I sometimes, when I'm brutally honest, I kill kindness. Okay, right now I'm killing kindness. They killed people. Okay, they tried to kill all the Jews. The word exterminated is used for the bugs in my place. The word is not exterminate. The word is kill in a most sadistic, horrible way. And to say that they tried to kill kindness, it's like saying an insane thing. You must change this.
Noemie, you want to respond to that, Noemie?
Yeah, it's my quote. I said it, so it's okay if you think it's mad. I think what I meant is that they took that out of themselves and they tried to take it out of us. Of course, they tried to exterminate people born to the Jewish faith. That was their raison d'etre at the Wannsee Conference. That was the raison d'etre at the Evian Conference when Franklin Roosevelt, in his ruse, tried to show that other countries didn't want the Jews either. The Americans only took in a limited quantity of Jews. And so what I'm saying first and foremost is that they took the humanity away. Some that maintained their humanity were probably full-blown sadists if they had the full pleasure of hurting and killing, like you say, rightly, Carmela, the most cruel and sadistic way, fellow human beings born to the Jewish faith. But in order to do that, you have to take away your emotion, because at night, as Derek will tell us so eloquently, they returned to their homes and they were fathers and lovers and human beings of sorts. So what Derek and I are trying to say by that is that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary things, or in a simpler way, we're all capable of good and evil.
Now, what you just made, this last statement, it's making a moral equivalency. Do you know that term?
Yes.
What?
Yes, I do.
So that is another mistake, because there is no moral equivalency between killing 6 million people and having the capability of killing people. Of course, everybody, we are very close to the animals, okay? So I can see where we would do things like that, all right? If we are led to our devices. But we didn't. 20 million people were killed. Germany started the war, and 20 million, and we are now only talking that we could all do it. Potentially we could all do it, but we don't. Okay? That's a huge difference, right?
Why don't we? Why don't we all do it? Exactly my point. Why don't we all do it?
Very frankly, what's the difference? That's a speculation. That's an abstract question which justifies the killing. Do you see that? Do you see that? Why? What the hell do I care why we don't do it? We don't do it. Okay? That's the bottom line, that we don't do it. We don't do it. We don't do it. Okay?
But if it happens all over the world and genocides happen in lots of different countries,
I think the other genocides are as horrible, and they are as much to be condemned, but they don't make the German genocide better, because Germany was a highly civilized, highly respected country, okay? And they went this fast, this slow. And, I love that euphemism, the Nazis did it. We all know that not only the Nazis did it. We all know that, not only the... So I am a very loving... I'm a social worker by profession, okay? I have a master's degree in social work. And I love people, and I'm full of empathy, but I'm not full of lies.
Oh, I think you've misunderstood me totally, Carmela. What I'm trying to show is that human beings are capable of this sort of thing. By making the Nazis into another is making them special. And what I'm trying to say is that they were human, and that human beings are capable of these acts, so that we can teach children and students to beware and to be careful not to fall into this trap. And we also say, Derek and I together, how easy it is, how it first starts with language, how Hitler in the 1920s was not a popular man, and how slowly he got people on board to join him, and how Nazi socialism was formed. And so it was formed by human beings, and by making them being something else, we're making them special, and that's a mistake. So maybe I didn't express myself very well. But that's my point.
But they crossed the threshold. They crossed the threshold. Everybody today maybe would love to kill the Jews, but nobody is, because nobody crossed that threshold.
Derek had a comment. Derek?
Sorry.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we try to get across, and particularly to kids, is that all of this starts with distrust and suspicion, which grows into resentment and hatred. And what we try to do is to encourage people to replace mistrust and suspicion with tolerance and understanding. And then that leads to kindness.
May I say something?
Yes, of course.
It's your show, Karm.
I think you are trying. You are trying. By the way, I have a question afterwards, but first I want to say...
What do you mean afterward? Oh,
after the statement. I think you are trying, okay? It's like, how many ex-Nazis, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren do you know, or are you aware of, who are doing this?
2.
Okay, I rest my case. Okay?
Which is that I'm lost.
You are lost? I'll lead you home. I tell you what, he only knows 2. If the Germans were repenting as much as Derek for what happened during their ancestors' lives, there wouldn't be only 2 others who are doing it. There would be 100,000, maybe 1 million Germans who would try to educate the world against genocide. But they're not. They're not. They're forming parties. They are doing this, they're doing that, but nobody is doing the job. 2 people do the job.
Noemie, you want to respond? Derek, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can name 15 people in my family who aren't doing the same thing as I'm doing, but I don't see that as being something to condemn. I'm not guilty of what my grandfather did.
No, you are not. But in order to educate the world, you need more people to educate the world than the 2 of you, okay? If you want to really help the world, to do these wonderful things that you are mentioning, then maybe you should be organizing people to do it, because nobody else is doing it. If you only know 2 people who are doing it, you understand what I'm saying?
We have you, Carmela. You're a powerhouse. I think you organize Derek, myself, and the world to educate. It's good that there are already people like you, Derek, and myself. We can't make the world.
Let me make it very. Can I make something very clear to you, Noemie?
Please.
My son will admit it. I did not create an identity for myself. I was 5-year-old, 5.5-year-old. I had to lie. I had to do terrible things to survive. Okay. I did not. When that passed, and I went back to the little town where I'm from, I did not identify myself as a survivor of the Holocaust. As a matter of fact, do you agree with it?
100%. 100%. And I've never really seen the side of you, which is interesting.
Yeah, he didn't see what he saw today. What happened is that very recently, my son, who is in TV, he's a TV journalist, and I were sitting around during COVID, and we decided, let's have fun, let's go, and we interviewed all sorts of eclectic people.
Fun like this podcast.
Not this one, but this one is.
This is important. This podcast. Real quick, Noemie, and we'll get back to Carmela's point. And Derek, I assume that you have spoken in front of other survivors. You're not getting the most warm welcome from Carmela, and we didn't discuss this.
Wait a minute, it's not correct. Maybe they're getting very warm when we clear the air.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, do you get similar responses from survivors?
Never.
From other survivors?
Never.
Never?
Never.
Okay.
I can be hugged. I can be kissed sometimes. I have gratitude from people. I shake people's hands.
How does it make you feel?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
That's why you're doing it.
No.
But what's wrong? What's wrong with Derek doing it? If you had just said that if he didn't do it, more people should do it. So what should the poor man do?
No, but what I'm saying
was a Nazi.
Noemie, what I'm saying is he's getting a secondary gratification from it. Okay.
Don't we all, by doing something?
Yeah.
Don't we all? It's human nature. Let's be honest. Don't we all get a kick of somehow? For me, it's a plaster. For you, Carmela, it's probably also healing your wounds.
So why do I do it? Why do I get gratification? Okay, sometimes I'll go to a synagogue with Noemie. People will greet Noemie. They won't even look at me. Is that gratification? Because I have to go through that before I speak to people. And I find it just a little bit of an insult that you consider that I do this just for self-gratification.
No, I never said just for gratification. I never said that. And that will be on the tape that I never said that. What I said is that you do get gratification from people loving you in spite of your family history. That's what I said, okay? That's what I said. I did not say that you are doing this for... I said what needs to be done. 2 people and you doing it, and people getting the wrong education in other venues, little kids getting together with you once and not making it a mass thing, in my perception, and it's only my perception, it's not, I didn't read it anywhere, I didn't consult with other people, I think it's not helping enough. I think if you wanted to do a good deed, a mitzvah, you know the word mitzvah by now, right?
Derek won't know it. I haven't taught Derek Judaism.
No.
It's a good deed. It's a good deed.
It's a very important term in Judaism, mitzvah. If you want to do a good mitzvah, recruit other people to do it with you. You are doing it alone, and you are probably getting very warm reception because Jews are very forgiving and very fast. Okay? And probably in the English, I don't know how many of those English people are survivors, but I'm sure that survivors are very varied group, like the Jews are very varied group. Okay? So some of them will hug you and kiss you, and some of them will not hug you and kiss you. Okay, so that's fine. But if you got 100,000 people to go around Europe, which is now getting again out of hand, the United States is also getting pretty bad now. Okay, but to go back to my background, I did not speak about the Holocaust, and I didn't. Many of my long-term friends didn't even know about my history with the Holocaust. And then Joel is like very clever, and he thinks of clever titles. So he said, "Oh, I'll call," because he's trying to survive. Having 3 children, having to work, worries about money, blah blah blah. So he said, "Not only are you a survivor, but I am trying to survive you and survive being a survivor." And that's where the title came from. But from the very first time when we were interviewing and when we were doing things, I made it very clear. I am not identified. I am refused to be identified by the Holocaust. I am defined by being a social worker, a therapist, a mother, a friend.
A lovely mother. A tough B.I.
Yeah.
Tough. Very tough. Which Noemie and Derek are finding out right now. And again, this is interesting to me because Karm and I literally, I'm actually working full time right now, on top of doing this and on top of being a father of 3 and on top of being a husband and on top of a million other things. But we did not discuss this in any way. So it's, I haven't really seen Carmela, I don't want to say upset, because I don't think you're upset.
I'm not upset.
How would you describe what you're feeling right now?
Many people get upset. I get angry. Okay, that's my.
Yeah, Carmela she gets a. That's kind of a mechanism, I think.
Yeah, that's how I cope with this whole thing. But the interesting thing is that recently, I was blessed by 8 grandchildren. Okay, the most wonderful 8 grandchildren. 2 of these grandchildren live in Israel. 2 just got married. Okay, so I'm a blessed person. The fact that my father, grandfather, aunt, uncle, all the relatives were gassed in Auschwitz. Okay? Father, grandfather, uncles, aunts, other relatives were gassed in Auschwitz is a fact. But I ask Joel if you think I'm exaggerating. I'm a very upbeat, cheerful person. We laugh here all the time. True or false?
True. 100% true. Let's take a half step back here, because
I think now that I told you how I feel.
Now the rest of the podcast can be awkward. No, I think there's, this is important for people to hear, I think, because it's not all rainbows and whatever the expression is. But Derek, I'm curious, can you just tell us a little bit about your family history? You found out, I understand, at a much later age in life. You were born, I believe, in the UK.
I have a question prior to that. Why was he born in UK when he's a German?
Derek?
So my father's sister married a Scottish soldier after the war, and they went to Scotland. And in the late 50s, my father was an illegal immigrant to Scotland and met my mother, a Scottish girl, and they married and they had 2 sons.
Got it.
And I didn't actually go to Germany until I was 13 years old.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your family history. I understand you only found out, I think, when you were 49, and I believe you're in your early 60s. Am I right about that?
No, 59.
I was 60 a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, happy birthday!
You got older since the article.
No, so tell us about who was your grandfather? What was his name, and what was his role during the war?
So my grandfather was SS Hauptsturmführer Karl Niemann, and he was working from Berlin and also traveling to the various concentration camps, and he was responsible for slave labor. I found that out purely by chance. My father and his sister wouldn't speak German together, and fabricated a story about their childhood. And I know that because after I found out who my grandfather was, my dad told me that they said they lived in Munich, because if they told people they lived in Dachau, people would have suspected. And it was only after his sister died in 2010 that my dad even admitted that they had lived in Berlin during the war.
Is your father alive?
No, he's dead now.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And when you had this moment when you found out that your paternal grandfather was responsible for some heinous acts, what was your reaction to that, especially at this point as an adult, an older man? Derek?
He heard you.
Oh, sorry. It's me.
No, I was saying, what was your reaction when you found out that your paternal grandfather was a Nazi?
I was paranoid because I found out online. I found a sheet from the Nuremberg trial, and they were investigating Oswald Pohl, and they were rounding up people who were part of his office. And I'd been going to Germany to join my wife for a business trip, and I was going as a tourist. And I asked my father for his address. And when I keyed in the name of the street online, I found this name, SS Hauptschirmführer Karl Niemann, Crimes Against Humanity, Use of Slave Labor. And my dad had always said that his father was a lowly bank official.
So was it when your father was telling you something other than the truth? Do you think he was trying to protect you? Was he embarrassed by the past? What was his motive for being deceptive about what had happened?
I think he was certainly embarrassed about the past, and I think he and millions of Germans swept the past under the carpet and fabricated a story that meant they didn't have to address it. And I think after 50, 60 years, he began to believe that the story that he was telling me was true.
Now, I mean, some of this stuff is obviously, it's painful to talk about, and and this is not about finger pointing, but you say that he was in charge of slave labor, but I mean, I think it's safe to say that he murdered Jews and maybe gypsies.
No, he did not murder.
No.
He didn't.
No,
he didn't.
There's no evidence that he actually himself killed anyone.
He selected laborers.
That was his only job, was selecting laborers. Okay.
Yeah.
But he was a war criminal, Karl Niemann?
Yes, he was. He was given a very minimal sentence because the information that would have condemned him to a much bigger sentence was being used to trial Oswald Pohl.
And some of this stuff, well, a lot of this stuff obviously trailed you in your life. I think I read that your father's sister was, for the rest of her life, was openly anti-Semitic. She didn't want, at some point, I think there was a story about seeing a menorah or something and said, we don't want this near us, things of that nature. But this anti-Semitism kind of pervaded the rest of your family, correct?
It pervaded some of the family. So my father's older sister was indeed very anti-Semitic. I didn't know that while she was alive. She wouldn't speak about that in front of us, but certainly her daughter and her granddaughters said that she would point people out in the street and say that one's a Jew.
And how are her children now? Has that carried on the anti-Semitism, or?
I don't think so. But you can never know, really.
How do they feel about what you are trying to do?
All three of them are teachers. Two of them are worried that people will find out that they are the descendants of a Nazi.
or that you will out them. You know the term to out somebody?
Yeah.
So that's interesting because that's something I haven't really thought about. But now that we're talking about it, I assume there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or millions of Germans whose grandparents, just like my grandfather was killed in Auschwitz, on the other side of it, there are many, many Germans out there whose grandfathers are responsible for killing the Jews, and they are now living in a different kind of agony or fear of being, like Carmela said, of being outed, right? So there's probably a lot of family history that's been kind of swept under the rug.
A lot of people live with a lot of lies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I meet lots of Germans, and I ask them, what did your grandfather do during the war? And they'll say, I don't know, I don't care.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I didn't really talk about the Holocaust with my mother till I was well out of high school into college. It's just something we never talked about in our family. It wasn't a big deal. It was just, I knew about it, but I didn't know any details. But even, I said I was on a business trip and I've traveled all over the world, but I went to Munich, and I have to be honest, I felt a little uncomfortable when I landed at the airport, just knowing what had happened to my people. You think, Derek, that's, I'm being unfair, do you think, or is that a proper emotion?
No, I don't think you're being unfair at all. And to use an example from the UK that's happening right now, there is a great scandal that's developed in a sport called cricket, where it's become increasingly apparent that there was deep racism towards Pakistani cricketers throughout English cricket. And that was just kept quiet. Nobody in the public domain knew this was going on. Yeah. And so people hide these prejudices and hide their hatreds so well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are millions who have some quite abhorrent views that have been perpetuated down the generations.
May I say something?
Yes, Carmela, yes.
I did counseling, okay? You can call it therapy or counseling, whatever the term. And one of the secrets of therapy is if you could come in and say, okay, this week at 3:00 on Tuesdays, we are going to discuss the issues that bother you, okay? And then we are going to leave. It will not leave an impact. Unfortunately, things have to be reinforced and reinforced and reinforced and reinforced, okay? Otherwise, they will not work. So what the two of you are doing is very good intentions, great effort, unpleasant situations that you face as a man face head on, but you will accomplish, in my skeptical view, and again, it's only me that I'm talking, very little in the long run, because the school, the home education, the values of the parents, and so forth, that one-time drop in and drop out will not do the job. You have any thoughts, Noemie, about this?
I agree with you, but it's a start. And it's laying the seed, and we all have to begin somewhere, Carmela. And Derek and I begin somewhere with personal human stories.
I gave you a terrific idea what to do first. Recruit other people. Have an army of people doing it, not just two other people and the two.
Will you help us, Carmela, to recruit? Not my fault.
I wouldn't put a foot into Germany. And the recruitment has to be in Germany. Also,
by the way, to this day, and Derek, I'm curious on your take. Growing up, while we didn't really discuss the Holocaust, it was anathema. Needless to say, we never drove Porsches. no German products. Carmela is very, very against supporting the German economy.
But Israel, that I love more as much as my children,
filled with Mercedes.
Is filled with Mercedes-Benz. So I was like, it was just my own little, Carmela's war.
Carmela, I grew up in Germany, and my father was a dentist in Germany, in Munich, and had German patients. There was a group of survivors that lived in Munich, in Germany, after the war. And my mother, to this day, goes back to Germany, back and forth.
No, I
know people. I know that there are many people with your view, and there are many people with our views.
I don't know many people with my view. I don't. I know my friends drive Mercedes and drive Volkswagen and drive this and drive that. It's just a little side issue. I feel that what the German people did then, it will take, you know how we have Purim. I was thinking of this when I heard that he booked you. And we celebrate, Purim because there was this evil Haman who tried to kill all the Jews. You remember?
Yes, I do. And Queen Esther saved us.
But I feel that the Jews made it part of their history. Now we made the Holocaust part of our history. We talk about it incessantly. I think there is an overload of Holocaust literature and talking about we are saturated with Holocaust stories right now, okay? But the Holocaust will be in Jewish consciousness and Jewish awareness for 1,000 years. And I personally, who worked my whole life on empathy, and I was a good therapist,
excellent therapist. You were into civil rights.
I was into civil rights, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But I will never forget the Germans, the Poles. My sister travels to Hungary now. I don't want to forgive the Hungarians who did it either. And just this morning, because I knew we had a meeting, okay? I went on Google and checked out how many people helped the Jews when the Germans were killing us. And I say on purpose Germans, I don't say Nazis, because turns out there are no more Nazis. They disappeared into the woodwork, okay? It's many Germans. How many, what number of people in all of Europe? I wrote down the number. It's a ridiculous number. The ones at Yad Vashem. Okay, let's say we didn't put in the full number. Let's say it's double that number. Okay?
What is the answer?
The answer is 26,973 are registered in Yad Vashem as righteous Gentiles.
26 out of how many? 26,000 out of a population?
Out of hundreds of millions.
Wow. Okay, well, that's a small number.
I just read a book. The title of the book, I recommend it to you. It's called, we just interviewed the author. It's called People Love Dead Jews. People Love Dead
Which I thought
Jews.
Was a comedy book, but it turns out it's not.
He booked her without asking me.
One of the premises.
I have a problem. He booked it without.
Yeah, so this is an interesting book, Derek. You might enjoy reading it, actually. It's by a woman named Dara Horn called People Love Dead Jews. And one of the examples that she gives in the book is at the Anne Frank house. Recently, there was a worker who wears a yarmulke. And this is a place where a Jewish woman had to hide her identity, and the curators of the museum called him in and said, "Please don't wear a yarmulke," basically asking him to hide his identity as a Jew.
Wear a baseball hat.
Wear a baseball hat instead. So the premise is that there's a lot of. How would you describe the thesis? There's a lot of.
I would describe it. People love their Jews.
I don't know. It might be interesting to read, but I mean, from what I'm hearing, Carmela, and I'd like to get Derek's opinion on this, you can't really forgive or forget.
No.
I also feel, Carmela, your hurt and your pain because
don't
it
bullshit
came out.
me. I swear to you, I have no hurt and no pain. I would tell you, I was.
Well, it comes out.
Listen, besides everything else, I was married to a social worker, to a psychiatrist. So I got
whose 88th birthday is today. Shout out to my dad.
Yeah, shout out to him.
But you know,
no, I am not hurt to the point that you can put me into the category that I am saying all this because I'm hurt. Don't use that tactic.
Noemie, your response.
Okay, I won't say you're hurt. I'll say what I see, that you're very, very angry.
Angry, yeah.
I understand your anger, and maybe I'm hurting for you, because for me, anger comes when you don't allow yourself to feel sad. It originates from another emotion. But I understand you. But I also feel that you can show your listeners the effect that it's had, your trauma, that it never goes away, and that your angry feeling is valid, and that we almost had that when you saw Derek, you saw maybe what I saw when I first met Derek, and it was just the word Nazi. Cannot see that Derek.
No. I see Derek as he wants to repent, even though he didn't do it.
He doesn't need to repent.
He didn't do it.
I just want to say that you're very angry. So why are you so angry, Carmela? You're very, very angry and almost aggressive, dare I say. Why? Explain to us.
Maybe
listeners. I think I can imagine, but maybe I don't understand. Because I want to see a soft side to you. I don't want it to be that.
Darling,
Derek
you are not the one who will see my soft side. You started to do this for your own psychological reasons, going and talking to people. The business wasn't so good because people are saturated with the Holocaust.
I want to make you nice, Carmela, so help yourself. I want to see the soft side and nice side, because I believe every human being has one.
I don't need you to validate my soft side. Everybody knows my soft side. I want people.
To see it. I'd like to see it here.
But let me explain it to you. You started to work on this, and the business didn't go too well of
what business?
Of helping people overcome the Holocaust. And then
I'm not helping people to overcome the Holocaust. I'm trying to explain to people when aggressive language, when things go wrong, how it can turn to hate, and how hate can turn into action, and to act with our own moral yardstick to do so. And I want to show you as a Jew also with kindness. Maybe your son knows you as kind, but here on this thing, and I understand that the emotion is anger that I'm seeing, and aggression. And I just want to explain maybe to your listeners, I want you to explain why you feel like that, seeing Derek and myself, whatever reason we have to do our spiel.
Why are you talking about aggression? I didn't do anything.
Because that's what I feel.
Well, you may feel. Emotions are lovely. But facts are facts, okay? The Nazis murdered 6 million Jews, and the lovely grandson of one of these Nazis finally came to terms with it at the age of 50, and he's trying to undo it. And you know what is the irony of life?
He's not doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So what?
I feel you're so angry vis-a-vis Derek that you can't dissociate yourself from. Derek might never have found out who his grandfather was. It was fluke. He Googled the street where his father lived. It might have been a secret forever. It's not Derek's fault, like it's not your fault that you were born Jewish. And I would just like to peel back, allow yourself to be the true you, that we explore your feelings, because it would be a lot more valid to your listeners to show what effect and what damage the Shoah did, and how it lasts into your age, and how it transcends into your son and into myself, the hurt and the pain. We see it. But if we can actually say it, rather than, we understand the Nazis, Derek and I, killed 6 million Jews. I, like you, Carmela, also had relatives gassed in Auschwitz. My father's parents, my father's siblings. I see your hurt and I see your pain. And I just don't think we may do ourselves any favor by having this aggression, although I understand it, or this other word that I've forgotten now.
Carmela, let me ask you a question.
No. I have an interesting little tidbit here.
Go for it.
Okay.
Derek wanted to speak as well, by the way.
Derek, you never have a chance. With us, Derek, you never have a chance. But say it.
Wonderful.
I'll say something about your book
Give
afterwards. Okay, give Derek a chance. We give
Jump
Derek
in, Derek. Jump in.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Would you ever imagine a time when you could forgive ordinary German people for the crimes of their ancestors?
Yes, I'm forgiving you.
For what?
But you won't buy anything German?
No.
You won't go to Germany?
No, I don't associate with what happened, and afterwards what happened is still happening. It's still happening. What is happening now is that because of this horrible, horrible thing that happened, they have to rummage and look for something to find wrong with Israel or with the Jews or with us so that they could make this moral equivalency, okay? We are all horrible people just waiting to murder. But that's not so. I have plenty of other places on the planet I can go to and I go to. Plenty. I visited most places that I wanted to see in Asia.
Derek, do you falter for that? I mean, it's a tough call because I mean, for me,
how can you forgive something like this? How can you forgive something? How? You tell me. You tell me.
But the generations who were born in the 80s, the 90s, do they need forgiveness?
Well, if they bought into their parents' value system, then yes.
But how do you know whether they bought into it?
What? I don't.
How do you know they bought into it?
I tell you the truth. I tell you the truth.
How do you know the truth? You've never been to Germany.
Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't buy into their parents' things. But at this point, I don't care. Okay? I don't care.
You don't care. Okay.
I don't care. I would have never booked you because I knew, listen, you wrote a book, right? You wrote a book about your grandfather, right?
Yes.
And apparently you wrote I didn't read the book, but I read on Amazon, just for curiosity, I read what people wrote about your book. And the English people are lovely. And they said, oh, how touching. We didn't have stockings at that time. And Derek's family, they had these long wool, what are they called? Tights. And how we remember in England, we didn't have these tights. And that's what they got out of your book, okay? That's what they got out of your book. The lovely, lovely, lovely family that your grandfather had at home.
Karm, in your opinion, is there anything that Derek could do that would add value to your experience or make you feel differently?
I don't, even though in Judaism, there is a saying that if you do something good, it will be rewarded for 1,000 generations, okay? But I don't hold the sons responsible for their fathers. I don't. Okay? I don't think he was a murderer or he was a Nazi or he even was alive then. He wasn't alive then.
Right.
That's it.
I mean, I always thought this is kind of out of left field, but growing up in our house and, I had never been to a church. I'd never, I wasn't sheltered. I grew up, I went to a public school, grew up in a town with
public school is like, like a public is like...
Not a private school.
It's not like in England. What is a private school in England?
State school. Private school in England is a public school.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't... but I wasn't sheltered in any way. But in our living room at home, there was always a framed picture of a nun. And I never with a cross and the whole thing and the habit. And it was just later on that I found out that was the nun who saved my mother. And then I found out that you used to send her money.
No, my mother was grateful forever as long as this nun lived because she saved my life.
What was her name?
Matilda Gorichanets. She was the mother superior, and she took me in and hid me, and that's how I survived. Without 2 or 3 very important people in my life, I wouldn't have been here today. I would be one of the 850,000 girls. I made a calculation once. No, 750,000. Because 1.5 million Jewish children were killed and gassed and shot and destroyed during World War II. 1.5 million. Can you put your arms around that number? 1.5 million. I divide it in 2 because I'm a girl and half of it was boys, so it's 750,000. I am one of 750,000. Maybe there are a few thousand more, but I am one of the 750,000 who could have been potentially gassed if my mother wouldn't have been a very, very gutsy, brave woman. And the morning that they took us to the cattle trains, she went out through the back of the house and started to walk with me away from the ghetto. And then righteous Gentiles saved me. But the unfortunate thing is that there were very few righteous Gentiles. That's why we are very few of us who survived, okay? Otherwise, we would have survived in larger numbers.
I think what I'm getting out of this so far, if I may put in my 2 cents here, we
never talked about it. He booked you, and then he left me to figure it out.
Would you wish he hadn't booked us, Carmela?
No,
seriously.
No, absolutely
no. Because it's hard.
No, it's not so hard. Don't be. I'm not you. I'm not this emoting.
Well, you are in a different way. You are emoting a lot of anger and aggression.
Well,
you are emoting.
I have no depression. Don't play my psychiatrist.
Not depression, aggression, anger.
Yeah, aggression, yes. Aggression, yes.
Carmela's...
and that's also an emotion. And I just want to explain...
Noemie, if it makes you feel better,
because your son is checking all the time how you are reacting. He's concerned about you. You are strong and you're tough. It's not making you any less by having an emotion.
Noemie,
are you always preaching to everybody?
Noemie,
yeah. I'm the eldest child.
I see this.
Noemie, if it makes you feel better, Carmela's Carmela. I mean, she's just she's sort of. I don't know. She's famous in her own way, and she's not the coddling kind. She's not the coddling kind of mother. Let's put it that way. I have a friend who will remain anonymous on this show, whose mother is always like, "Oh, poor son, poor." That's not what you're experiencing. Is what I experience in a sort of different way. I get a lot of tough love, which is probably why I have OCD and anxiety and worry about a lot of things. But I wouldn't want it any other way. My mom's a tough ass, and she tells it like it is. I honestly didn't know how this conversation was going to evolve, but one of the things I think I'm taking away from this is you have your way of feeling, and Derek has his way of feeling, and my mother has her way of feeling, and this is a very complicated, difficult, painful experience. And no matter how much you want Carmela to not feel angry, she's gonna...
No, I don't not want to feel her angry. I want her to feel... I understand. I wanted Carmela... I suppose she's done that. I suppose to explain her anger really for people so that they understand the hurt. I suppose they do when Carmela keeps saying 6 million Jews were murdered.
Her father...
that was a cute Freudian slip there. You heard that? Noemie? That was a cute...
Yeah, it wasn't Freudian. It's just I'm tired, yeah. It wasn't even... What's the Freudian about the 1,000 or the million?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not amused.
If my father was gassed, I don't think I'd be able to forgive either, and I think that's a personal decision.
I'm not asking that. I suppose I just wanted you to be honest about your feelings, really. But we understand. I mean, I suppose nothing more needs to be. I understand. Yeah.
Move a little that way. You moved under the thing. Thank you. Let's let Derek talk. Poor guy, between the three of us slugging it out, he doesn't have
Derek,
a chance.
what do you think your grandfather Carl would have thought of of you teaming up with Noemie?
I think he would have been appalled. I think he would have been baffled. I think it would be beyond his limited imagination to understand why I should do that.
And your own father, did he change at all in his lifetime?
He had a rather contradictory attitude. His best friend at work was Jewish. He worked in London latterly, but at the same time, he could say things to me. Yeah, I know that that they shouldn't have killed 6 million Jews, but the Jews still took our house in Berlin after the war. So he I suppose he subscribed to that old trope about the Jews will always win out no matter what. And that he just couldn't be shifted from that.
You know, my stepfather, I had a lovely Jewish stepfather whose wife and pregnant wife and 7-year-old son were also gassed. So he married my mother after the war, and he had an unbelievable sense of humor. And I have tons of jokes that I am still treasuring from him, and I dispense them as needed. But one of the things he said, do you know what the definition of an anti-Semite is? Do you know?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you. It's somebody who hates the Jews more than the norm.
Oh, my goodness.
Meaning that everyone hates them. Just some hate them a little more. One of the statistics.
Tom Lehrer there, I think.
Pardon me?
Tom Lehrer.
One of the statistics I actually just I put in my notes that 1 in 20 Britons believe the Holocaust never happened, and 1 in 12 think that its scale has been exaggerated. Is that something that you guys think that you can help to change the thought process of by what you're doing, or is it what Carmela said, which is it's just a problem that's too big for the two of you to help solve?
I think we just do our best. I'm sure there will be a percentage in any country, no matter what the strength of the education system is.
Derek, what do you think of Israel as a country?
Happy that it exists. Happy that it was a refuge for people after the war.
And Noemie, we'll wrap it up in a minute. I read a quote of yours from your dad. Your dad says that hatred eats up the person who hates. What do you think your dad meant by that?
Exactly what he says. That it gnaws away at you. It stops you from breathing and from living. You're just surviving or existing, and ultimately it makes you mentally ill. Because the perpetrators have no benefit from those feelings.
I'm probably opening up a Pandora's box, but I want to end on this. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it over Carmela to change her the way you would like to change her, what would you want? I mean, what would you, I can tell you.
Wait a second. I want really to clarify it. In general, what kind of am I a cheerful, upbeat?
Carmela's very optimistic.
I'm a pathological optimist.
She is an optimist.
I am cheerful. I am a leader. I am like totally a happy person. I am telling you, I'm so happy and fulfilled with my 8 grandchildren. With my
I gave her the only grandson, by the way.
He gave me the only. Yes. His name is Yehuda.
Yeah.
His name is Yehuda,
also
and
known
he's
as
gorgeous.
Judah Mack.
He's gorgeous. And I tell you right now that hate is not a good emotion to feel, but forgiving and kindness are sometimes not in order.
But Karm, do you have hate in your heart for the Nazis?
Absolute passionate hate.
Passionate hate.
You know, I remember having this dream as a child, as a 6-year-old child, that I would meet these Nazis. And, you know, we didn't have, in this small town where I grew up, we didn't have cars. We had horse buggies. and the harness for the horses. And I had this feeling that if they were harnessed to pull the carriages, that's what they would deserve. I had a very distinct, and my mother said to me, my mother was a school teacher, very smart, and she said to me, now repeat after me. And she told me this little prayer in Hungarian. Én Istenem, jó Istenem, becsukódik már a szemem, de a tiád nyitva, atyám, amíg alszok, vigyázz rám.
What does that translate, please?
So doesn't everybody speak Hungarian? So that means that, dear God, watch over me while I'm closing my eyes. Let me have good dreams and watch over my mother and father. My father was already gassed in Auschwitz. Watch over my mother, father, grandmother who escaped with us, and grandfather who was gassed in Auschwitz. I enumerated all of them. And when I said this little prayer that rhymed, I did not have that nightmare anymore. You never heard this
Never
story?
heard. Also, I just thought I'd never heard that story. And, it's difficult for me too, because I think if I dig too deep or talk about it a little too much and below the surface, that I will get very upset too. But have you ever had any desire to go to Auschwitz, Carmela, to see where your father was? None.
My grandchildren went, the March of the Living. No, I never.
Have you been, Derek or Noemie?
Not to Auschwitz, no.
Do you have an interest to go see it, or you think that would be too difficult?
I do, but I'm a little bit reluctant because of the way that the Polish guides massage the story.
Mm-hmm. And Noemie, so I just want to wrap this up because I could tell that you are kind of not, I don't know what the right word is, not upset, but you'd like to see Carmela behave differently, I think. What if you could wave that magic wand?
In the proper English way.
What would you want to see from her? If you could.
Nothing. I think Carmela is perfect. I just wanted Carmela to explain what we saw initially. But I suppose we don't really need that. Maybe that was silly of me. I felt that Carmela was angry, borderline aggressive, and to me, and it came from Carmela's experiences and pain, and the pain of her immediate family, the pain of her family, of her community, and of her people, and she's justified to say that. She's lived through this experience.
You know what? I tell you something, Noemie. In the
you have the last word, Carmela.
In the 1960s, when I first arrived, I'm married to his father 60 years. When I first arrived to America, the WASPs were in charge, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Now the whole demographics of the country have changed completely. The white Anglo-Saxon Protestants completely are out of power and other people are in power, but more or less out of power. At that time, it was culturally absolutely unacceptable for a woman to express any anger. Women had to be nurturing, sweet, understanding, quiet, subdued, and so forth. And I think you still operate with the same values.
I learned from you then, and thank you.
Let's wrap it up on that note.
No, but part of the women's liberation was that, which I was involved in historically because I lived through that period, right? So historically, we were given the right to express our true emotions in an authentic way rather than repressing them as you are.
I'm not repressing them. It's just ways of saying things. I just wanted the audience I wanted to show you
listen,
in the best
we
light.
Joel and I never care about the audience when we are doing this. We are not doing this for the
Screw
audience.
the audience.
Screw the audience. We are doing it for ourselves, okay?
Listen, I think this was the most interesting conversation we've had on Surviving the Survivor. I know it was not an easy one to have. I hope there's no hard feelings all around, but when you discuss difficult...
I am going on record. I don't have one single hard feeling. I really don't.
Noemie, do you hate my mother?
Not at all. Where would that come from?
We just joke around on the show.
You haven't understood a word Derek and I've been saying for asking that, even as a joke.
Yeah, I get it. And, I think what you guys are doing is interesting. I really do.
I think you need more foot soldiers. I think
Joel, you were very brave to have us on your show, and courageous and gutsy, with your strong mother. And I want to bless you, Carmela, to continue from strength to strength together with Joel and your beautiful 8 grandchildren, and carry on the work that you're doing. And Derek and I will take your message on board to find more foot soldiers. In the UK, we're blessed. We have many Holocaust education bodies. We have the Holocaust Education Trust that takes 6th form pupils to Auschwitz. Our new health minister, Nadine Zahawi, has just been to Auschwitz. And we have Royal Holloway University. We have University College London. We have the Wiener Library. We have many, many foot soldiers. And Derek and I are the magical little sprinkle to those bodies.
That's interesting.
And we are grateful to have been on your show.
Thank you. Carmela and I actually just booked our first 2 stops on the Surviving the Survivor tour, where we're going to discuss some of these issues. So, Carmela...
Tour, what?
We're going to speak.
Oh.
Carmela, I'm bringing out an animation. I wonder what you'll think of that. So watch out. The trailer's coming out in February. An animation on the Holocaust. That I want to know what you think about that.
Send it to us.
No, send it to us. No, send us a copy.
You'll see it on LinkedIn, when it's out. It's only in February.
Carmela's tough. She speaks her true feelings, but she'll be your good friend. She's
after I clear the air, I have no problem. No problem whatsoever. Send it to us because we would love to see it, okay?
Thank you.
Derek, be well, be healthy, okay?
Thank you. And you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks
so much for joining us. We'll be right back with the news schmooze. Thank you.
Welcome back. It's time for the news schmooze.
So that was in my 52 years on Earth. I saw you curse out a Hasidic Jew for not letting a pregnant woman sit down, but this is probably the most uncomfortable 59 minutes of my life that just went by.
Well,
it was interesting.
You know what, Joel? You were like,
I just decided not to talk.
No. You were like so hard trying to sort of let them not get really upset. You tried to. You were the nice guy. I was the bad cop and you were the good cop.
You just ran over them right out of the gates. I didn't realize that the killing kindness was going to work you up. Do you agree with Noemie that you are an angry person?
Well, I always tell you that. Don't I tell you that?
What she doesn't understand is you're not angry with me, but you're a tough bitch. I don't know how else to say it. And you weren't taking any shit from them. And I get your point of view. I understand it. Look, they're both obviously trying to do well.
Oh, no, they're trying to do good.
They're trying to do good. And you can't fault people for that, but that's just not, your style is not doing good. One thing you always tell me is, don't tell me about your emotions, Joel. Don't tell me about your emotions, Joel. Which is definitely why I have OCD, anxiety. I'm constantly stressed out. I don't want to get back into myself, which I never do. But
well, show them that you were optimistic.
No, but I have my optimist shirt on. But if I was raised by, I'll just say it, Joanna Brode, my friend Matt Brode's mother, I'd be a totally different person. I'd be a meteorologist in Tucson, Arizona.
I thought you would say
Do you feel...
Joel, when you said me, I thought you would say, because Broad is very smart and very good, but I thought you would say I thought mediocre.
Bro, that's my mom, not me.
I don't think Broad is mediocre, but I was afraid you would say something because you always say nasty things.
It's
about
weird.
Your friend.
Broad and I talk about this. I saw Life is Beautiful, I don't know, 15, whenever it came out, 20 years ago, and I don't know why, but the little boy in that movie reminded me of you, and the movie ended, I was sobbing like a little baby in the movie theater and a half hour afterwards, I couldn't move. But anyway, I think you're entitled to your emotions about that. I think Noemie didn't know what to do with how you reacted, and Derek was Derek. I mean, I think he handled it well. Not
Derek was completely out. It was Noemie and us.
Derek was like, these Jews, I gotta get me.
He says, what did I get myself into?
Derek, we're just joking. Noemie, we're just joking. On to the news schmooze. Carmela, do you feel like that was cathartic? You feel better now? I feel like you feel a little relaxed, like after a massage or something.
No, because when you told me Monday...
maybe I should bring a Nazi to Miami Beach, and every month you can scream at them, and it will take some of the edge off for me. What do you think of that?
At least get me a little Nazi statue.
Yeah. Okay. These are all jokes, Noemie and Derek. Sorry.
This is called comic relief.
On to the news schmooze.
After the Nazis.
On to the news schmooze, sticking with anti-Semitism here.
Oh, that's
New York
good.
Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz expected anti-vaccine mandate protesters outside his office in the Bronx recently. The Democrat even warned constituents to avoid the area if they were concerned about potential exposure to the coronavirus. But the protest outside Dinowitz's office was organized by Rob Astorino, who's actually a well-known Republican and the former Westchester County executive. The gathering was in a response to a bill, and I just realized I forgot the most important part of this story, I believe. Protesters showed up wearing swastikas and yellow stars of David. This is in New York. This is in the Bronx, where my father is from.
Bronx is not New York. It's another borough.
Karm, can you wrap your head around, speaking about moral equivalencies, these idiots are trying to equate vaccine mandates with Nazism. Your thoughts? Have we talked enough Nazi stuff today?
My thought is what...
By the way, this episode took years off my life. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
I am laughing. I swear I'm laughing because it really wore you out.
She said...
It kind of energized me.
She even said, your son is just staring at you, which I was. I don't even know what to say. What about this moral equivalency between Stars of David and swastikas and vaccine mandates? Is it ridiculous?
We did enough Jewish stuff. Skip it.
On to the next one. This is my favorite story. I'm a big MMA fan, mixed martial arts. A Russian MMA fighter who called himself the unvaccinated assassin is now facing a murder charge for allegedly
somebody got it from
stabbing a doctor to death in a row, meaning in a huffy, that's a British word, over the COVID vaccine. Akmal Koshiev was detained in Guam for, this is my favorite part, for allegedly choking and stabbing Dr. Miran Rabadi with an animal bone that was left over from a meal. The radiologist was found lying in a pool of his own blood. When an officer approached Mr. Koshiev, he said, "Sir, it's me, I killed him." Are people losing their minds over this vaccine?
Let's put it together with the other topic that we're not going to discuss today, because this vaccine thing is so stupid. I have 4 doctors, one an expert in immunology and in vaccinations who we interviewed, and everybody says the vaccines help. Now, the vaccines don't help forever. They have a very short shelf life. So luckily, they're coming out with oral things now, but the vaccines work.
Here's how I feel about the vaccines. If you want to get a vaccine, get a vaccine. I'm triple vaccinated. If you don't want to get a vaccine, don't get a vaccine and risk dying, but you ain't going to affect me. So,
well, apparently they affect you in the sense that they bring you the disease.
No.
I mean, not to you personally.
I'm tired of hearing about it. On to the third story and last story. An Arizona woman who was this is complicated. I actually put this in here so you could explain this to me, Carmela. An Arizona woman who was the birthing partner for her best friend. Okay, you follow that?
Yes.
Discovered to her horror that her own husband was the father after she noticed a rare hereditary birthmark on the girl's neck that was identical to the cheating man.
I got it.
So her best friend was going to have a daughter. Was going to have a surrogate.
Her husband cheated with her best friend,
and that's how she had the surrogate.
What?
And that's how she. I mean, that's how she had the child.
Her husband and the mother of the baby were lovers, and the woman who helped deliver the baby was the legitimate wife of this man.
You know, I could never do well in reading comprehension either on the SATs. And Cluster claims her now ex-husband cheated with at least 30 women during their 6 years of marriage. They all have
marks on that. Listen, they all have marks on that.
That made me read The Birthmark by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's a great story. The moral of the story, do I need to worry about my wife?
Why? She has a birthmark.
She actually has, you know what's interesting? She has a birthmark on a little one on the back of her right arm, and my daughter Vita has the identical birthmark in the identical place. Is that weird?
No, it's genetic.
We'll be right back to wrap up. I'm just wiped out from the show. We'll be right back with what was going to be 3 questions for Grandma, but I think we will do a post-mortem of Nazism. Back in a flash.
It's time now for 3 questions for Grandma.
I got to tell you, Karm, I don't know if I'm going to make it through Dad's 88th birthday today because this wiped me out.
Joel,
Happy 88th birthday to my father.
That's so ridiculous that this wiped you out.
Do you feel energized? You said you feel energized.
I feel fine.
You do?
I swear, I would tell you the truth. I feel very nice.
Let me ask you a question.
What?
Do you feel a scintilla of guilt for how you went after them today on this show?
Joel, you always said to me, if you would just let go, Carmela, and be...
This was it. This was it. You didn't really curse, but which is what you do with me. But
no, I use... Listen, I'll explain something to our very precious audience. I curse when I learn a new language and I cannot express myself and I don't have enough of a vocabulary. I use the curse words to enrich what I try to say. And it's perfectly logical that I use curse words. In this particular case with you, it's like our private little language. You curse more than I do, and we just go at it with using a lot of profanity, but we curse, both of us. You don't curse?
I do. And I just noticed that red light is out on the camera. If this episode didn't record for some reason, I'm going to snap and kill people.
But what about the voice?
The voice is definitely here. All right, everyone. Karm, any final thoughts?
The final thought, as in final solution?
Yes.
No, the final thought is that we traumatize them. They will probably never interview an American again.
Their speaking tour just ended.
And you know what? And also Cohen will never send us anymore anybody.
Yeah, poor Steve Cohen's going to hear this from them. You know what? I think they understand. Again, my final take on this.
Joel, you are not responsible. He's not responsible for his grandfather.
Yeah, but you can't control emotions. Everyone's going to feel a different way.
He's not responsible for his grandfather and his father's anti-Semitism. You are not responsible for my outburst.
No, but I am responsible for this podcast. You. And that red light being off is enough I literally might go just postal right now. I'm going to go insane if this did not all record. Well, love you, America. Anything to cut off and keep the show going now, Carmela? Love you, America. Talk to you soon.